Hello everyone, Calina again from StoryRetold, and we're continuing with Michael Gray's reactions, or my reactions to Michael Gray's Arglefumph's Everything Wrong with Nancy Drew. Message in a Haunted Mansion. And it's been years since I've seen this, or maybe I didn't, and I don't know. Let's go ahead and get right into it. There are spoilers for this, just FYI.
Nancy investigates a series of mysterious accidents cliche.
Nothing wrong with cliches, because it's fitting for the Nancy Drew universe, but if you don't like it.
Why does Nancy have a framed photo of Rose?
It could be Hannah Gruens's framed photo of Rose, because it's Hannah Gruens's friend.
Nancy has her own designer label, but she still wears mom jeans.
That was the 90s. Those were trendy outfits.
Nancy's journal clearly has a keyhole, but it doesn't have a key.
You can still open it without a key. I've got diaries that are like that.
't journal is pretty much useless for solving the mystery.
No, if you're not sure what investigations, what clues you gather to help your own deduction of who the culprit is, these are the notes that Nancy has that directs suspicion on each of the characters, the suspicions that she's found.
Abby assumes Nancy already knows about the seance without being told.
Does she?
She sounds busy.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah, she does.
Nancy does everyone else's chores cliche.
That is a cliche that does build throughout the Nancy Drew games. This was only the third one when it was made, but it gives a player things to do actively to be engaged with the game.
I noticed Rose didn't put herself on the work schedule.
Yeah, that's because Rose is always there. Rose should be always available to her workers, but...
Rose has Nancy fly all the way out to California just so Nancy can do 3 chores, and that's it.
Well, you don't know until, after the mystery. Maybe they found something more for Nancy to do after the case was solved.
Well then, I don't have anything for you to do right now.
Rose has a
See? Right now.
list of chores right in front of her, but she can't think of anything else for Nancy to do.
Maybe she needs a professional to handle some of these chores.
There are a lot of nooks and crannies to explore.
Rose mispronounces nook.
Maybe that's just her accent. That's how she says it.
Rose lectures Nancy for a minute, then says...
Enough chit-chat.
Like Nancy was the one who was talking too much.
It didn't sound like Nancy was the one talking too much. I mean, you could be self-deprecating of your own digressing.
I've seen bobbleheads with less wobbly necks than Rose.
Okay, I do agree that's a little bit of a problem. The animation was just kind of too repetitive for her head.
The tile puzzle.
Wait, what's wrong with the tile puzzle? I mean, okay, yes. Specifically, that tile puzzle was pixel perfect, annoying. And if you didn't get it exactly right with the pixels, it was hard.
Need to look around for a chisel or paint scraper for the job. I'm not sure where Charlie keeps them.
Asking Charlie for help is not an option.
That's true. But then Nancy's also quite independent.
The insurance agent signs her name Helen O'Leary, HL/cow.
Cow. I don't know what that means. Maybe cow is abbreviation for something?
Charlie's shirt.
What's wrong with his shirt?
I'm repairing some floorboards, so be careful walking around.
Charlie says he's repairing floorboards, but the floor looks perfect everywhere in the house.
Well, you haven't seen the other corridor behind where the ladder is, in the other side of the house.
House has a lot of doors and rooms that we can't enter.
That's true, I know. It's always disappointing when you see something you really want to explore and you can't.
The key to the attic is in the cash register in the basement. I don't understand the logic behind that.
I do. In order to explore that area, you have to get Charlie out of there. It's kind of a logic blocking for the player, so the player can't do something in a certain order. From a design perspective, it makes sense. But you're right. Having the attic key in the cash register, why would the previous owners of the house do that? I don't know. That's a good point.
Charlie's screwdriver is unnecessary because you can use the paint scraper in its place.
For all instances? I'm trying to think. Because you can use it in like 2 or 3 places. I don't know, that could be true. That could be true.
How do you like working for Abby?
She's not bad.
Unfortunately, Rose doesn't want to fire him.
Charlie's dialogue indicates that he works for Abby, but Abby's dialogue indicates that he works for Rose.
Well, maybe he was hired by Rose, but he takes orders from Abby as well.
Nobody cares that Charlie is secretly living in Rose's basement.
Well, if you play the game a very specific way, you can get Charlie to confess this to Rose.
Charlie's conveniently absent whenever Nancy enters his basement hideout.
Yeah.
Charlie keeps a disc that...
Because Charlie can see when people are coming through the saloon.
has the outline for his term paper, but not the term paper itself.
Well, he said he had a backup at the school.
All of the old newspapers in the basement are framed and protected, except this one.
They ran out of frames.
Nancy's completely in shadow here, despite having 2 candles in front of her.
Trying to hide the image of Nancy? Strategically?
How did Abby play this tape during the seance? The tape player in her bedroom is clearly too large to fit down here.
That's a good point. That is a very good point, unless there was a secret player hiding underneath the globe, or the crystal ball.
Abby operates her ghost trick machines at all times, even in the middle of the night when she's asleep.
That is true, unless she's got some sort of automated system happening, which we do not see the wiring for.
It's not explained how Abby made the wooden phoenix move in the sitting room.
That's true. That was not explained. The rustling curtains were not explained. The blinking portrait was not explained. And we don't get a full explanation on how the ghost is seen in all the mirrors.
Do you know much about the original owner?
Almost all the records on these old houses were destroyed.
Unfortunately, there are no records on this house before 1906.
We have the phone record which proves Valdez was the house's original owner, but Rose and Lewis both insist we have no idea who the original owner is.
Maybe they didn't read it yet. Abby read it, but I don't think they did.
There appears to be no use for the chess book,
That's
the
true.
non-alcoholic drink book,
True.
or the mystery book in the attic.
True. Red herrings.
Players expected to tell the difference between 3 similar-looking keys.
They're not... I mean, they're all different.
The maze puzzle.
What's wrong with the maze puzzle?
Solving the maze puzzle bypasses Lewis's computer security.
The maze puzzle was actually a thing for, like, my grandpa's computer way back in the day.
Why does he even bother protecting his computer with a password when anybody can log into it no problem?
He trusts people?
Computer interface reused from previous games.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can't use half of the icons on the computer screen.
Yeah?
He said he's had trouble with viruses lately.
Really? His computer does like 3 things. What is there for the virus to mess up?
It's deflection. He's trying to get people to avoid touching his computer. Extra security that way. It's just an excuse.
My name is Louis Chandler.
Which sounds a lot like chandelier.
That was intentional.
This animation error. Lewis's letter.
Yeah, that was a pretty common error. When you clicked on the next dialogue for Nancy, sometimes the characters would freeze at the last animation frame.
Head is a top hat, but Lewis himself never wears a top hat at any point in time.
It's just a logo. You're not expected for people to look like their logo, right?
What are you using the library for?
Research. This library contains many rare books.
Lewis is up to something.
Nancy knows Lewis is here to research the library, yet she thinks it's suspicious that he's reading books there.
Well, it does get suspicious when she sees him put one of Rose's books in his briefcase and not go back to the desk.
He's hiding something in his briefcase.
Nancy, you were watching him the whole time. You could clearly see it was a book.
Aha! That's it!
Lewis acts like this book is way more important than it actually is.
Do you know what gumbo foo means?
Where did you hear that?
I came across it in a book.
No doubt the book I have locked in my briefcase.
Lewis knows you snooped through his briefcase if you say you heard gumbo foo from a book.
Yeah, you're not supposed to give yourself away as a snooping detective.
Because, obviously, there's only one book in the whole world which contains that phrase.
It would be too much of a coincidence.
That's too bad. And to think you could have saved the day.
And helped out Rose.
George thinks doing construction work is a higher priority than finding hidden treasure.
Well, if the treasure is, just a rumor, doing actual work is more important, yeah.
Nancy finds hidden treasure cliche.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nancy's mentioned in this newspaper article, which means Lewis is keeping tabs on her. The game glosses over this fact.
Yeah, but it does give the player suspicion on Lewis and gives player extra caution when speaking to Lewis. That's why the next scene, after you snoop the bag, the briefcase, you want to deflect. You want to deflect from your snooping.
Nancy, I'm ashamed of you. Everyone in this house expects some degree of privacy.
Except Abby, who is spying on everyone with secret cameras.
Rose doesn't know that yet.
Is there a reason Abby hasn't told Rose the truth about the hauntings?
Yes, it's involved with some of the conversation you hear with Rose and Abby. Abby insists on better marketing and getting publicity for the mansion because it's a tough market to be in the bed and breakfast industry. So that's why Abby and Rose don't exactly see eye to eye when it comes to that kind of thing. So that's why Abby didn't tell Rose.
As the co-owner who doesn't want this place to get shut down, it'd be in her best interest to confess.
On the contrary, Abby's trying to get people in with her antics.
Players expected to know who Emily Foxworth is, even though she hasn't been mentioned before and will never be mentioned again.
That's true. We are just dropped in without knowing who this is. That's fair. That's a good point.
You're not in San Francisco, are you, my dear?
Actually, I am.
Nancy emphasizes the wrong word in this sentence.
That is true. Bad direction from the writers, I guess.
Hannah Gruen will pretty much disappear from the video game series after this. Apparently, living with Nancy Drew doesn't make you an important person in her life.
I know! This is something I've been arguing. Carson Drew and Hannah Gruen needed to make more of an actual appearance in the Nancy Drew games because they're so critical to the Nancy Drew universe, at least in the books. They're kind of like a home base, so I think alternating between phone friends Bess and George and actually calling Hannah Gruen or Carson for information or help or tips, game tips, just to talk out the mystery. I think they would be great. I agree. It's the only time you get to talk to Hannah Gruen after this.
Life. The K in knickknacks is capitalized.
Yeah. Typo. Writing error. I agree.
Then the capitalization disappears.
Yeah.
The comma after hello magically appears. The comma in the last sentence disappears and reappears.
The games were not
There shouldn't be
QC'd
a comma
as well.
after named. Doesn't is misspelled.
Yeah, all of this was not QC'd to the full extent that the later games were given.
Senor is misspelled. You know what? Forget the grammar issues. Let's just say the subtitles need proofreading and move on.
I'll let you get back to what you were doing.
Pax vobiscum.
Abby tries to show off in Latin and fails, because vobis is second person plural. She meant to say pax tecum.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Dangerous chandelier rope is not kept out of the reach of children.
Just don't vandalize the next house you stay in, okay?
Especially if it's ours.
Bess and George live in the same house now, apparently.
Ours could be plural.
Nancy finds a hidden attic and no one cares.
I know, isn't that sad?
The only way out breaks at the worst possible time, cliche.
Yes, we love those cliches.
I can't read this.
Most people who grew up... Okay, I guess Arglefumph's about the same age as me. Yes, handwriting is hard to read. Yes, cursive was way more popular in the 90s. And that's why it was included in the game.
Seances were very popular during the Victorian era, and I plan to entertain our guests with them.
Maybe you could entertain them with a spa treatment. I call it massage in a haunted mansion.
that you'll be alone in the house for a while. Everyone is going to the Winter Festival.
All the characters make plans to go to the Winter Festival, and they don't invite Nancy. Ungrateful jerks. If Nancy looks at the fire, you get an automatic game over.
Yeah, I agree.
The correct solution is to get a fire extinguisher before acknowledging that the fire exists. Talk about doing things backwards.
Yeah, I think that could have been a poor design choice in the logic in hotspots.
The fire is a game over sequence, yet it barely burns anything. Nancy could have...
It only burns the box when you're at it. And if you do not put it out, then it does burn the entire room.
Easily opened the door here and learned who the culprit is. Why did the culprit wait until Nancy was at the door? It would have been a lot safer to put the note in the room while she was sleeping.
That's true. That's true. Maybe they didn't know what point she was went into her room, or since she was about to come out. But since the player is facing the door, having this animation to alert the player to something on the ground that you would otherwise not see in normal navigation, it makes sense.
Nancy is so unfazed by this threat, she doesn't even comment on it or talk to the characters about it.
That's too bad.
The only reason Nancy finds the safe is because Rose had the tapestry cleaned.
Yeah, it's too bad we didn't have a clue about this somewhere in Lizzie Applegate's writings.
Solves the mystery through a lucky coincidence, not because she's a good detective. This puzzle! You're forced to remember all the symbols which are scattered throughout the game.
Yeah, mega puzzle. Which, if you're taking good notes like a good detective, I mean, yeah, to be fair, these older games, they did not keep notes for you, and that was part of your mystery-solving experience. You had to do it.
Puzzle does not save your progress when you back away.
Yeah, that's too bad, as it makes it difficult to help each other out remotely.
I can't be the only person who went back to the library to see what the Phoenix picture looks like, only to learn I had to resolve the symbols puzzle.
I know, that's not fair.
Light doesn't work like that.
No, that's true. You're right. Light doesn't work like that. But the animation is way cool.
Lewis knocks Nancy out and says,
Too bad no one will ever find out about it.
like Nancy will magically forget everything when she comes to.
Maybe he was hoping for amnesia?
When Lewis knocks Nancy out, her inventory disappears.
To make the culprit fighting a little bit easier so the player doesn't just get distracted by useless tools.
Close up on Lewis's unmoving butt.
Not wrong. What's wrong? Whatever.
If you pause here, you'll notice that Lewis isn't actually holding any coins, he's just pretending to move them into his bag. Where did Lewis's bag come from? Doesn't he have a suitcase?
Could have been underneath the desk or in the desk drawer. Maybe just off screen. You didn't see it?
It'd be a lot easier if he scooped up coins with his bag instead of moving them one by one.
If the bag could fit in that floor piece.
The only way the staircase challenge works is if Lewis has the worst peripheral vision ever. Nancy stands around and does nothing while Lewis runs away.
Yeah, Nancy is not supposed to be violent in the games. Well, direct violence. Indirect violence, we could get away with it in ESRB. Direct violence, like actually taking an object or weapon and hurting the player, or the other non-playable character, that counts as violence for the games, and we couldn't do that.
Lewis hears when Nancy goes up the squeaky staircase, but he doesn't hear the squeaks coming from the chandelier.
Maybe the squeaks are just really, really loud.
Lewis survives this without any injuries. Lewis is firmly sitting on his leg,
How do you know he wasn't injured?
which are together. Now his legs are splayed. Lewis's bag disappears when the chandelier falls.
Yeah, that's true. It is missing from that scene, huh?
You can see some gold coins in Lewis's bag here, but you'll notice none of the coins have been moved from their original position.
Saved on animation.
Manually dialing 10-digit phone numbers. Sorry, I meant to say that one earlier, but I forgot.
Well, that's how that phone worked, so you have to. Be thankful it's not a rotary phone. Actually, that would have made a cool puzzle.
Lewis wanted to buy the house so he could look for the treasure, he knows he could have looked for the treasure without buying the house first, right?
Yeah, that's what he was doing.
Game's ending forgets to resolve the subplot about Charlie living in the basement. For all we know, he's still living there.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, total errors 93. Sentence. Chandelier dropped on your head. Don't worry, you'll live through it with no injuries. Ah! So funny. Okay, yeah, there were some legitimate typos and bugs in there. And I remember reporting some of these to my team when Arglefumph made this video. I was like, yeah, there are a lot of errors. A lot of them are personal preferences, and some of them are, yeah, they're legit bugs. So, that was fun. Anyways, comment below your comments, your thoughts down below in the comment section, and be sure to give a shout out and go and follow Arglefumph and watch the rest of his videos on his channel, Arglefumph the Nancy Drew Dude. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you at the next video. Bye.